Hey, Reslayers, it's George here with another amazing podcast recommendation for you. If you like tabletop role-playing games, the American Old West, and Call of Cthulhu, ooh, do I have a weird and terrifying actual play for you. Ain't Slayed Nobody. It's an actual play comedy horror podcast. It blends tabletop role-playing and audio drama elements with fast pace and immersive sound design, and y'all know we love that. Speaking of y'all, Season 1, Y'all of Cthulhu, is complete, and their campaign The Between is now underway, a campaign about mysterious monster hunters in Victorian-era London. You gotta check it out right away. Search for Ain't Slayed Nobody wherever you listen to podcasts, or visit ain'tslayednobody.com for more info.
Cut! I heard you were craving a new D&D podcast to obsess over. Cast Party is exactly what you're looking for. Picture this, Hollywood meets fantasy, as cast and crew members from an LA film set are whisked away to the enchanting realm of Fendrea. It all starts with a spell, a single line from a movie script, triggering a mind-bending plane shift that transports our party from a movie set to a world of magic, monsters, and mayhem. Join us as the cast and crew navigate this new reality, armed with powers they still don't know how to comprehend. Immerse yourself in this fully sound-designed podcast and enjoy the mishaps, the magic, and the unexpected friendships that form as they journey through a land they thought only existed in movies. If you're craving an adventure that is the perfect balance of comedy and tragedy, Cast Party is your next must-listen podcast. Find us on all major podcast platforms. Don't miss out on your new favorite D&D podcast. And action!
Welcome to the Reslayers Take. I'm George Primavera.
And I'm Nick Williams. In this podcast, George and I lead a group of players through an exciting improvised adventure in Exandria, the magical world of Critical Role.
We're playing Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but you won't need to know the rules to follow along. All you need to know is that nothing the players do is scripted or planned, and their fates are determined by their own cleverness and the random chance of rolling a 20-sided die.
You can listen to new episodes of the Reslayers Take every Monday, anywhere you stream podcasts.
Or if you want to listen to the podcast 2 weeks early and uninterrupted by ads, join Beacon at beacon.tv.
Last but certainly not least, if you're enjoying the story, please consider leaving a rating and review. Your feedback might inspire someone new to join this adventure.
Now, without further ado,
welcome to the Reslayers Take.
The Reslayers Take stands silhouetted by the glowing red light of the obelisk. As the descending wall settles, flush with the floor now, Frog, Farah, and Hira stare into a pitch-black hallway that seems like more of a rough-hewn mine shaft than an intentionally made passageway. Hira and Farah, as you stand in this chamber, you see that there is some writing on the walls. Though in the black and white of your dark vision, the writing is difficult to make out.
Farah channels her energy into her sword. The blade bursts into flames, taking 6 necrotic damage.
Farah's veins glow. She loses her temporary hit points and is brought to 59 points of health.
Farah raises the sword towards the writing.
You do make out a few phrases. The words traitors, cowards, and the phrase they will pay are scrawled repeatedly across Slayer's Take iconography. Another repeated phrase is scrawled in a loopy script. Osisa the fool, Osisa the tyrant, and one that sends a shiver down your spine. Written the largest and scrawliest of them all. He is always with me. The passageway continues for several hundred feet. It is a long, frankly boring walk. The writing gets more and more repetitive as you move, and there is less and less to discern. Eventually, after moving through this tunnel for about 10 minutes, more magical, heatless flames spring up on the walls, leading deeper into the hallway that ends in a thick iron door, completely featureless and smooth, save for one keyhole just where one would expect to find one.
Okay, so we already know Heldwell is maybe not doing so well on the mental health department. Who builds a mansion and then says, I'm gonna have miles and miles of a tunnel and it's gonna end in a giant door?
Yeah, maybe Helval and his mom really had something to hide.
Do you think you can unlock it?
That's a silly question. Of course I can unlock it.
Hira shifts nervously, undoes the clasp on her thieves' tools, and then examines the lock.
Roll an investigation check.
26.
Just underneath the door, almost imperceptible to the eye, there is a slightly raised part of the floor on the other side of the door that is just barely peeking out. With your keen eye, you determine this to be a pressure plate that is being held down by the closed door.
Okay. Complication. There's a pressure plate. You do have to come over here and hold the plate down.
Okay, yeah.
Think heavy thoughts.
Farah turns her boot to the heavy setting and places both toes onto the pressure plate to hold it down.
As Farah's weight increases by a factor of 8, Hira, make a Thieves' Tools check.
25.
Reaching her arms past Farah, Hira is easily able to click the lock open. And the door does not swing open, but is suddenly slightly ajar.
Hira slowly presses the door open.
The first thing you notice is that the next room seems to be an impeccably furnished castle foyer. High ceilings, elaborate chandeliers, and even more massive portraits of a more modern-day Heldwell, looking haughty and proud. Though Heldwell's main portrait, above an austere fireplace, has an enormous slash through it.
Why does this guy have so many paintings of himself?
He's kind of self-absorbed.
Hira looks for a mechanism to disable the trap.
Roll an investigation check on the other side of the door.
21.
They are well concealed, but there are several metallic nozzles that seem prepped to spray something at the entrance of the door.
Hira carefully empties out her water skin and places the mouth of it over the nozzle, then beckoning Farah to step off the trap.
Farah steps off the trap.
The nozzle, directly above the door, suddenly begins to spray something into the water skin, and very quickly you determine that it is not liquid or any kind of solid. Some sort of gas is filling up the water skin,
Farah puts her foot back on the plate.
and the gas stops spraying into the water skin.
Can someone just disable this trap so I can, walk off this plate?
There are several wardrobes, a couple of large chaise lounges, and a massive suit of armor that could potentially be moved to replace Farah.
Hira slowly starts to make her way towards the suit of armor and begins to manipulate its limbs to move it closer to the door.
The armor settles on the pressure plate.
Farah moves towards the portraits and starts examining them.
Farah, roll an investigation check.
12.
There is something beyond the slash in Heldwell's portrait. Something that looks like a different material than the walls.
Farah slowly peels back the slash painting.
Elevated about 4 feet off the floor, there is a door behind the portrait.
Hey, there's another door here.
Is there anything else in this room we might need?
Everybody roll a perception check or an investigation check.
19.
Nat 1.
Dirty 20.
The room is full of old antiques. Nothing that seems particularly useful, but Frog does find one small vial of red liquid underneath one of the wardrobes.
Frog grips it with her left, identifying palm.
The illusory image of the vial is projected into the air. The Aeorian text begins to scroll in front of your eyes, identifying this potion as a very rudimentary healing potion. Otherwise, the room is empty.
All right.
The door is locked.
Farah turns to Hira, jiggling the handle of the door.
Hira, make a Thieves' Tools check.
29.
In less than a second, the door is picked and it swings open, and there is a throbbing humming coming from deep within this much more diminutive tunnel.
Hira crawls forward, trying her best to be as silent as she can.
As you move forward through the tunnel, the humming gets louder and louder. You turn a corner and see that this little crawl space opens up into a room from which there is emanating a bright green light. Your spectral weapons activate.
Hira, what do you see in front of you?
As Frog shouts out,
Oh no, someone's coming. Gavain, let them take me. Finish the mission.
We could really use a hand. Right in my ear.
Does someone know me? Do you know my name? Please say my name if you know it. Say my name.
Gavain von Eite. Your name is Gavain von Eite.
Someone other than him.
Farah, hearing a name, thinks back on whether or not she's heard it before.
roll a history check.
23.
The name Von Eite strikes a chord with you. In your youth, you remember coming across a pirate by the name of Captain Von Eite, who boasted often about abandoning his family.
So either the people in there are pirates, or the sad son of a pirate.
Curious, Kira slinks forward and surveys the scene.
As you come out into a small dungeon room, there are 4 figures secured to the wall with glowing chain restraints, looking immensely haggard and drained.
Dramatically whipping his head back and forth, his chestnut hair damp with sweat falling in his eyes, you see Gavain von Eite, the perfect image of a knight. Striking features, an athletic build. Without his armor, he has a billowing white shirt and now tattered velvet green pants that some might say are far too tight. Exhausted, beaten, and disheveled, he still looks annoyingly good.
I know you. Our rivals.
If he weren't chained to a slab, Maurice Fiddlefoot would stand exactly 3 feet tall, with a few inches added on top by his delightfully coiffed sandy blonde hair. He's wearing a froofy tunic that should be belted at the waist. Since it's not, it sort of reads like a short nightgown. A more self-aware person would be embarrassed. You can still make out his pantaloons and green little boots poking out underneath, though. Don't let them rattle you, Gavain.
Also chained to the wall is Euphemia, a tall, waifish elf with purple hair and long, thin robes. She has a single strand of hair out of place, indicating immense struggle. Not enough to jostle her time-honored look of distaste.
Oh, perfect.
And finally, Drunk, a half-giant by the looks of him, standing well over 7 feet tall, even slouched against his bindings. Whatever is left of his clothes hang loosely off his massive frame, torn in exactly the perfect way to protect his modesty. His skin resembles a boulder, both in color and toughness, slate gray and pulled tight over gigantic muscles. Jagged, angular tattoos accentuate his chest and neck, disappearing almost elegantly into his copper-toned chin-strap beard and long mohawk.
Did you see my mug? Please tell me you found it.
Okay, so number 1.
Kira says, emerging from the shadows, her eyes still alight with the flame from her Runekeeper ability.
You're not in a position to make demands. And number 2, your mug was gaudy, and we threw it in the garbage where it belonged.
No! No, gods, no! No! Drunk has nothing now. Do not let them rattle you, Drunk. They're just the kind of rivals I thought they'd be. Our dark mirrors, twisted versions of ourselves, who know not what is fun and good in this world.
We don't know you.
Yeah, how can you be our rivals if we've never met you?
This is a clear tactic, Gavain. Pay it no heed.
Nothingness haunts being.
Farah scrutinizes Gavain.
Roll a history check with advantage.
24.
Not only does he look just like that family-abandoning pirate, but you also recognize him from the aftermath of your battle with the Timberblight atop Dead Man's Table. As you descended the mountain and Heldwell paralyzed you with magic, it was Gavain von Eite's face that you saw poking out from behind him, mentioning that his intent was not to murder you all, simply to reclaim the weapons.
Oh, you look just like your dad.
You don't know my father. This is all a trick from the phantoms. They're giving me visions of my worst fear. Someone not knowing me, but knowing my father.
Well, Farah is really smart and she knows a lot of things, so if she knows your father, he was probably pretty important.
Farah beckons her team to huddle up.
Okay, if he's anything like his dad, he might be capable. But by the looks of them, there's something off.
Oh yes, take your time, we're quite comfortable.
That is a lie. We are uncomfortable and have been for some time.
The chains light up, glowing fiercely. Each of the spectral hand make a wisdom saving throw.
16.
13.
11.
16.
All failures. Each member of the spectral hand fails the saving throw, taking an additional point of exhaustion bringing them all to 3 points of exhaustion.
Wait. I've got an idea.
Maurice tries to slip out of his chains.
Maurice, roll an acrobatics check with disadvantage.
7.
That is a failure, and Maurice takes 4 points of necrotic damage as the bindings sear him deeply, bringing him to 17 points of health.
Did it work?
Nope.
Farah, ignoring the screams, continues to talk to her team.
These were the guys that were at Dead Man's Table, the, weird group that was behind Eldwell.
Okay, don't worry. I'm gonna handle this. Stand behind me, and if any of them tries something funny, do what you do. All 4 fists.
You got it, Hira.
And Frog stands behind Hira with all 4 of her limbs ready to engage.
Farah lazily swings around her flaming sword, staring daggers at the 4 people chained to the wall.
Hira strides over to the halfling and says,
Well, clearly you're the leader here, so I guess I'll parlay with you.
Maurice looks over at Gavain, and then back to Hira.
Yes, I am the leader.
What has happened? Am I dead?
Maurice Ignatius Fiddlefoot.
Yeah, you're the only one showing any initiative. Okay, so here's how it's gonna go. Clearly, we have something to discuss, and normally I would not help you out of your restraints, knowing that you probably want the weapons that your patron commissioned back, but speaking openly between us, based off of the letter we read, you've never been successful in anything, and I don't imagine you have what it takes to be successful in defeating us in any kind of battle.
I'm not the leader. This is way too much pressure. Gavain, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, Gavain.
We will talk later.
Farah points to Dronk.
I think this guy's the leader.
I see what you're doing, and I do not like it. My name is Gavain von Eite, and as the leader of the Spectral Hand, chosen of the Spectral Hand, we shall parlay together because I'm in very much pain and I'm frightened.
Also, Drunk was once told he could not finish a full steak, and then he did. We have accomplished some things.
I'm going to let you out of these restraints, and if you try anything funny, things will not go well for you.
Hira, roll an intimidation check with advantage.
21.
Gavain, do keep our emotions in check. Your pants can't take much more of these chains.
You, clearly being my mirror.
No, I would never stoop so low as to wear velvet while adventuring.
You being the leader of your group and me being the leader of mine, I accept your very compelling arguments. We shall honor this promise. We will have a truce as rivals this day. Yes?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. It might be good. Iron sharpens iron, as they say.
Okay. Well, they don't really scare me, and they might have useful information. Also, I think it would break Frog's heart if we let them waste away here, so...
Hira examines the chains.
Roll an Arcana check.
22.
The chains seem like they are comprised of both metal and spectral energy. You are immediately reminded of Sasha the Barbarian, stuck within the body of the Magma Landshark marionette ghost. Now roll an investigation check, with advantage.
Dirty 20.
The chains are connected to a thick iron ring that is set into the wall, padlocked shut. As you gaze around the room, you see there is a key hanging up on the opposite wall.
How'd you get like this anyway?
It was a harrowing tale, if you must know. We entered. I had a spell upon myself to protect me from ghostly influence. Drunk ran in, set off every trap he could find. But quickly, the others of my party, they became frightened, and we were scattered. Maurice, sweet Maurice, he said, Gavain, leave us behind, go on without us.
They don't care, Gavain. We were betrayed.
By?
Grim Hildwell. He looks awful. I don't know if you've seen him lately, but it was shocking. Shocking. Like moss growing on his face. I was prepared for ghosts. I'm always prepared for ghosts. But I wasn't prepared for dark swamp wizard.
It's okay to be scared.
If you're a coward,
I mean, listen, sometimes I get scared.
don't tell them that.
Well, I can assure you, Gavain was not scared. He's never been, and he never will be. Right, Gavain?
He just said he was frightened not a moment ago, you twit.
I don't know what you heard, Euphemia.
Drunk was scared. Drunk talks about his emotions when he feels them. It is important to say how you feel.
But is it important to yell how you feel?
Yes!
I would also like to point out that I am rather frightened. Sorry, Maurice, I am. It's true, we should be honest. But these chains are doing something to my body. It's like, what were you saying it's like, Maurice?
Oh, it was like someone was making my body cry?
Yes.
Swinging the key from one finger, Hira carefully approaches the padlock on Gavain's chains. She places the key inside, but before turning it says,
I don't care if he betrayed you, but we have our own business with Heldwell, and we demand satisfaction from him.
All right. Allies we shall be this day.
No.
Okay.
What's the midway point between rival and ally? We can be in there.
Indifferent.
Work acquaintance?
Ooh.
That, I think, is too strong.
Hira turns the key.
The chains restraining Gavain go dim and loosen, and he is released from his restraints.
Oh, yes. I can feel like myself again.
She strides over to Euphemia and does the same. Quiet. She then releases Dronk.
Drunk slouches off of the wall, stretching his trunk-like legs as he flexes and wiggles his toes.
Thank you, sweet angel.
Hira's nostrils flare,
You're welcome. Just please put on some shoes.
averting her eyes from his massive wriggling toes. She takes her time sauntering over to Maurice.
Well, it's deserving that I would be last. Whoa!
Maurice falls the 3 feet that he was hung up by the chains.
As the last of the chains go dim, there is a shuddering in the room. Dust falls from the ceiling, and the ground begins to shake. And all of a sudden, the stones of the floor begin to fall down into a deep, dark pit. Everybody make a dexterity saving throw.
Dirty 20.
13.
10.
9.
Nat 1. 17.
Nat 20.
Everybody plummets downward as the stones begin to fall, colliding with a slanted stone surface, an enormous slide that leads down into the darkness. Maurice, Hira, and Farah are able to slide down the wall, taking no damage as they descend to the slanted surface. But everyone else takes 7 points of bludgeoning damage. Gavain is brought to 12 points of health, Euphemia to 10, and Drunk to 28. Despite her natural 1, Frog takes none of this damage due to her monk abilities. All 7 of these adventurers slide down the slime-covered chute, tumbling and bumping into each other. There is suddenly a split in the pitch-black slide, 2 slides diverging from each other.
Farah, thinking quickly, reaches out for one of her friends and grasps onto Frog.
Roll an athletics check.
10.
Farah reaches out for Frog, but Frog tumbles too fast and away. Gavain, Maurice, Farah, and Hira descend down one slide, while Dronk, Euphemia, and Frog slide down the other. And now for a brief intermission. Support for the Reslayer's Take comes from the podcast 6 Minutes. Let me ask you a question. Do you like the action of Percy Jackson or Ben 10? What about the characters of Divergent or Kim Possible? Are you a fan of teen spy, sci-fi, time-traveling audio adventures? Then you'll love the podcast 6 Minutes. You're going to be introduced to a mysterious girl named Holiday. Who is she? Where did she come from? And how did she end up floating in the icy waters off the coast of Alaska with no memory? And what's the deal with that cool hoverboard? It's a great show, but don't take my word for it. The New York Times said children and their adults who love the X-Men and other tales of youths with innate powers will get lost in the 6 Minutes fictional saga. Find out what all the buzz is about. Look for 6 Minutes on Apple Podcasts and for more information on gzmshows.com.
Hey listeners, what if you, like our inquisitive Aormaton frog, learned something genius every single day? In the podcast, Am I the Genius? You'll dive into a world of collective experiences, each with a comedic spin. Am I the Genius is a show that explores a wide range of topics from what's a rule at your school that backfired to the moment that made a calm person snap. With new episodes every day, the show brings you a mix of humor and insight as it delves into these fascinating stories. Hosted by a team that knows how to keep things entertaining, Am I the Genius invites listeners to submit their own stories and join the fun. Whether it's a wild story from a doctor about surgeries gone wrong or the most offensive thing someone has ever said, this podcast is sure to keep you hooked. Check out one of their recent episodes where you'll hear answers to questions like, what were some of your most horrifying gaming moments? And zookeepers, what are the best and worst animals to take care of? You're sure to hear the craziest responses you've ever heard. Am I the Genius brings you hilarious and thought-provoking stories every day. Don't miss it. Listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. The award-winning podcast Story Pirates takes stories written by kids and turns them into sketch comedy and songs. Made up of talented comedians, songwriters, and frequent celebrity guests, the Story Pirates inspire kids to create, bringing laughter to kids and grown-ups of all ages with hilarious sketches, catchy original songs of all genres, and interviews with the creative geniuses behind the stories themselves. Kids! The Story Pirates team knows what we at RST know. All kids are geniuses, and the celebrity guests know it too. Story Pirates have had on an incredible lineup of celebs to bring kid stories to life, including Lin-Manuel Miranda, John Oliver, Kristen Bell, Dame Julie Andrews, Steph Curry, Bowen Yang, and more. There's no wonder it's been consistently ranked as one of the top podcasts for kids since 2017 and has been downloaded over 8.5 million times. Also, our very own voice of frog, Caroline Lux, has performed with the Story Pirates, so check it out! If you're looking for some of the finest children's storytelling around, be sure to listen to Story Pirates wherever you get your podcasts.
Now back to the show. Gavain, Maurice, Farah, and Hira. You find yourselves in a long, cavernous dungeon. Multiple passageways moving in all directions. The same stark painting of Heldwell, plastered on the wall every 30 feet. Lanterns swinging from chains move gently in a drafty breeze. Your spectral weapons remain activated.
Where is Frog?
The slide split in two. I tried to grab her. She went down the other one. She's with...
I already forgot their names.
No, it's all right. We should exchange names. Your friend Frog, was it? He's with, Maurice is there. Drunk and Euphemia. Chosens of the Spectral Hand.
And what is your choosing process? Do you just close your eyes and put your finger out and run in a circle, and whoever it lands on in the inn, you just decide that they are now a part of your hand?
No.
It's a lot more intense than that. What happened was, I received a scroll in the mail, and the scroll told me to come to a certain place at a certain time if I wanted to be an adventurer. And I show up, and I'm in this room attached to a long hallway, beige, bland wallpaper, and all of the other halflings in the hallway look sort of like me. Some had brown hair, red hair, whatever, but ultimately we're all the same sort of type of guy. And out of those halflings, I was selected.
Just don't talk anymore. Okay?
Farah, Hira, make a perception check.
Nat 1.
14.
Farah, you feel like you might have seen just the faintest glimmer of glowing green at the end of the hallway disappear into the wall. But it could have been a trick of the light.
That's not a bad plan either way, because I thought I saw Heldwell's lantern.
Farah, as you look back down to where you saw that glimmer of green, you see that one of the paintings on the wall looks slightly different from the many paintings of Heldwell.
Farah slowly approaches the unique painting
and gazes upon a painting of herself.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Farah looks around to see if there are any paintings of Frog, Hera, or any of the Spectral Hand.
Farah sees no other paintings, but as you turn back to the painting of yourself, your visage is growing more gaunt and sallow, your expression becoming frightened and desperate.
Farah thinks about if this magic is familiar to her.
Roll an Arcana check with advantage.
Dirty 20.
You recognize a ghost's trick at work, but that does not take away from the sinking feeling that you feel as your skin in the portrait begins to decay, and you begin to shrivel into a skeleton. And suddenly, the face changes, screaming with green-lit eyes. Make a wisdom saving throw.
12.
A horrifying green specter blasts out of the painting, shocking Farah. And as Farah reels back, frightened, the green specter, which appears to be sort of a half of a person floating in tatters, inhales inward, and something leaves Farah's form, green and wispy, into the ghost's mouth, and it disappears down the hallway. Farah, you gain 1 point of exhaustion.
Gavain runs up to the painting and tears it off the wall.
The painting clatters to the ground.
There.
Ignoring Gavain, Hera rushes to Farah. Seeing that she is visibly shaken, she offers her forearm to help her back to her feet.
Farah takes Hera's outstretched arm.
As their hands meet, Hera casts protection from evil and good, warding Farah from the undead.
Farah, you see a very faint chain-like tattoo in the shape of a bracelet settle on your wrist. Farah, make an Arcana check with advantage.
25.
You have detected traces of fiendish energy on Hera before, and you see this yet again in the spell that wraps its way around your wrist.
Farah gives Hera a knowing look, but doesn't say anything.
Farah, make a wisdom saving throw with advantage.
Nat 20.
You immediately shake the fear from your bones.
Maurice goes to tend to his own party member.
Well done, Gavain.
And he casts Prestidigitation, cleaning off 1 square foot of Gavain's tunic.
Thank you, Maurice. What do you think that little moment they just had was about?
They had a little moment, I didn't catch it.
Yeah, they looked at each other strangely for a second.
It's called mutual respect, and you don't have that between your team.
I think we have that.
Yes, I have that.
And I thought I had issues.
All right, we've loitered here enough. Let's just get out of here as fast as possible.
Yes, you go in the front.
Hera takes one cowboy boot, putting it squarely in Gavain's back, pushes him forward.
Gavain dusts himself off. I was going to suggest I go first, actually. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Follow.
Right behind you, Gavain.
Farah, Hera, Gavain, and Maurice continue down the dark dungeon. We cut over to Frog, Drunk, and Euphemia in a tunnel of similar aesthetic, though rather than lanterns hanging from chains, there are candles lit on sconces and long stretches of silk posted about in a decorative fashion. Each of them picks themselves up off the ground.
Whoa! I've taken a lot of falls recently, but nothing was as fun as that one.
Yes, a rollicking good time. Let's go.
And Euphemia looks around at the different passages.
All of them appear completely identical. Euphemia, make a perception check with disadvantage.
9.
There are no discernible differences in the hallways.
Left.
Left.
As Drunk starts moving to the right. As he walks, Drunk looks sheepishly down at his torn clothes and begins to pull at all of the hanging silk, attempting to make himself an outfit.
I can help you with that.
What? Drunk was just... It's so pretty.
It is really nice. And it matches your beard.
Yes. That is what Drunk thought too.
Drunk clumsily ties the fabric around himself, making a sort of tunic.
Here, use this.
Frog reaches into her knapsack and pulls out a small ball of twine.
Drunk takes it gently.
Thank you. Perhaps it is just that Drunk can see his face in your face. But I do feel comforted by you.
Drunk, Euphemia, make investigation checks with disadvantage.
That one.
6.
To Drunk and Euphemia, Frog seems like someone clad in a full suit of armor.
Your armor gleams so brightly.
Thank you so much.
There is a clattering from further down the hallway.
What do you think that sound was?
Drunk, pick up your skirt. There may be trouble.
Frog, make a perception check.
11.
You cannot discern what the sound's origin was, but you hear another clatter around a corner and see a glowing blue light, very dim, begin to appear from around the same corner.
It looks like a friendly light.
Race you to it!
Let's go!
As Drunk and Frog thunder towards this glowing blue light, Frog easily overtakes him and sees it first. The passageway is completely obscured by a light blue glowing fog.
Usually, Drunk is faster, but he was in chains for a very long time.
That's okay. Now, as for this...
Frog passes her left identifying palm through the fog.
Your identifying palm is unable to come up on anything.
Yeah, I didn't think that was gonna work. Have either of you encountered anything like this before? Even in this mansion?
We have not.
The fog begins to drift toward all of you, wrapping around your feet and moving up your hips. As it travels upward, it engulfs then your shoulders and your head, and you can barely see a few inches in front of you.
Quick, grab my hand so we don't get split up.
Which one? You have so many.
Any of them will do.
I do hate physical touch, but all right.
Frog, Euphemia, and Drunk make wisdom saving throws. Drunk and Euphemia at disadvantage.
Dirty 20.
8.
13.
Frog and Euphemia are unaffected by this fog at first, but you hear Drunk scream.
Oh, not again! Not again! My bones! My sweet bones feel wet! They are becoming liquid! My liquid bones!
You feel Drunk drop to the floor as if he has lost all feeling in his limbs and he is unable to move.
Drunk cannot stand with watery legs!
Drunk is now frightened. The mist suddenly dissipates and a ghost drops out of the ceiling, seeming to suck something out of Drunk's soul before diving fast towards the floor. Drunk takes another level of exhaustion. His maximum hit points are now halved. Drunk is brought to 18 points of health.
Wait! Euphemia points a finger at the ghost and casts True Strike.
The ghost looks back at Euphemia.
Oh.
Euphemia, make a wisdom saving throw.
17.
Euphemia seems completely unfazed.
Yeah, you leave us alone, ghosty.
And Frog strikes out with her 2 magically gloved fists.
Roll 2 attacks.
23, 11.
2 hits, roll damage.
16 bludgeoning damage.
2 motes of light spring into existence.
Let's learn a little bit more about...
And Frog strikes 2 more times.
Roll 2 more attacks.
13, nat 20.
2 hits, one of which is a crit. Roll damage.
25 bludgeoning damage.
The ghost explodes and becomes formless.
Analyzing.
Frog determines that the ghost is resistant to acid, fire, lightning, thunder, and bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. It is immune to cold, necrotic, and poison damage, and cannot be charmed, exhausted, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, made to fall prone, or restrained. And there appears to be a bit of energy stuck within it, the embodiment of Drunk's truest fear. But this also dissipates into thin air as the ghost is eliminated.
Oh, Drunk, are you okay?
Drunk, make a wisdom saving throw with disadvantage.
16.
Success.
Drunk stops writhing on the ground and shakily stands.
Drunk needs more arms.
Meanwhile, Gavain and Maurice are torturing Farah and Hira with their absurdly annoying presence.
Maurice is in the middle of telling Farah a tale of Gavain's great deeds.
And then as the bugbears tore through the town square, he bravely shoved me into a merchant's stall, which collapsed on top of me immediately, protecting me from any danger in the town.
Farah walks along blissfully, having already stuffed cotton balls into her ears, the ones she had from Josgrin's Hollow.
Gavain leans in to have a private moment with Hira.
Call it professional curiosity. I wanted to know how a leader would lose one of their party members. I have all 4 of mine. 3. I'm 4.
Now I know why Farah says that your father left you behind. If you were my kin, I would have done the same.
And Hira strides down the hall.
Gavain begins to cry.
No! 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 I am sharp as iron. Good.
Hira, as you walk further down the hallway, rounding the corner, you suddenly hear Gavain's sobs stop abruptly. There is magical darkness that blossoms up behind you, and a figure that begins to walk out of the darkness in front of you. Roll a perception check with disadvantage.
10.
You see a small figure, about 3.5 feet tall, with pointed ears, and soon, walking to within the limits of your dark vision, you see the familiar face of Poogs.
Hey, Hira.
Hira's eyes dart to her hilt.
The weapon has gone inert.
What, are you getting tired of wearing Timpani's face?
Oh, I'm not under any kind of illusions that you might think I'm actually Poogs. But I gotta get your attention somehow.
Why?
Because the last time we spoke, you disappointed me with your decision. You tried to break the horn.
Hira gingerly touches the horn that is now affixed over her shattered horn.
Why would you do that?
It's not supposed to be me.
It wasn't. You can take solace in that, I suppose. Your siblings denied me. You made the wiser decision.
Poogs' eyes glow red, and he smiles with sharp teeth.
I think there are better candidates.
The quality of the candidates isn't exactly my concern. I can work with anything. I work with goblins all the time, and they're so small and pathetic.
The fact that you're asking me and not telling me makes me feel like I'm not as worthless as you want me to feel.
The only thing you're worth is what I've contributed to you, and I've invested a little bit into you now, as I'm sure you can feel. You certainly have an affinity to command people against their will, and I can respect that.
As this version of Poogs walks forward, you see chains around both of his ankles, which rattle as he steps closer to you. You reflect on these words, Hira, feeling the 2 levels worth of power from your fiendish warlock pact coursing through you.
Think of what we can do together. You could be so important. You could lead armies. Entire nations would fall beneath your hooves. And instead, you walk around with a bunch of morons. Hopeless do-gooders. Is that what you want to be known as? Hira the Hopeful?
No. But if we're gonna do business together, there needs to be some rules.
Oh, you're going to establish rules? Like what?
Stop wearing their faces.
But I like this one a lot. I can see how much it upsets you.
You're just mad he was able to push you out.
Roll an insight check.
9.
The entity wearing Poog's face does not betray any emotion.
Well, that's what I aim to fix. I've had enough of acts of kindness being my downfall. I'm planning something a bit more ironclad. But I'm gonna need you to do it, Hira. And if you refuse, I'll find another way, and you won't like it.
Hira's mouth curves into a smile as she says,
You said need. When you're going to play cards with Hira Agniheart, don't show your hand.
This false Poogs regards Hira with curiosity.
Can't scare you, Hira. Can't outsmart you either. I don't need to do either of those, though. Someone's gonna take care of that for me. I've been keeping the ghosts at bay so we could have this little chat, but I think we've come to at least a loose understanding. I'll be in touch. You might want to go help your friends.
And Poogs is pulled by the chains into the darkness with a flash. The darkness behind you dissipates, and you hear screaming from behind you.
Oh no! No! A seagull got inside! Don't let it touch me with its feet! Oh! Ah, no, good! Oh, get it away from me! Get it away before it puts its feet on me! Birds are meant to stay outside!
Hira sees Maurice desperately swiping at a seagull that is attempting to place its feet on his face.
Casting friends, Hira grabs Maurice by the scruff and shakes him.
It's not real. Snap out of it.
Maurice, make a wisdom saving throw.
18.
Maurice is able to quelch his fright as the seagull loses its form, and a suddenly revealed glowing green ghost begins to shoot towards the ceiling, having drained Maurice of his energy. Maurice has 4 points of exhaustion.
Oh, it's just a ghost.
Farah sees the ghost retreating, points her crossbow at it, and shoots, trying to tether it.
As Farah activates the tether, the runes glowing along the firing mechanism.
As Farah aims, she imparts some of her energy into the spectral crossbow. It shines a bright light, and she takes 2 points of necrotic damage.
She is brought to 57 points of health. Roll an attack.
18.
The bolt fires forward, impacts on the bottom of the ghost as it attempts to flee through the ceiling, and the tether between the crossbow and the ghost becomes almost solid, glowing with a white spectral light, and the ghost stops. Roll damage.
9 magical piercing damage, 2 radiant damage.
That's right. Bring it down here so I can punch it.
The ghost looks down at Gavain. Its face contorts in a horrific form. Make a wisdom saving throw with disadvantage.
17.
Gavain is oddly fearless in the face of this.
Scream all you want. You cannot frighten a warrior of the Dawn Father, the chosen of the spectral hand. Bring it closer.
Hira's rapier strikes upwards, thrumming with sonic energy. She looks for the perfect spot to strike.
Roll an insight check.
Nat 20.
Hira tracks the ghost's pattern as it attempts to free itself fruitlessly from the tether. Roll an attack.
28.
Hit, roll damage.
14 piercing and 9 thunder damage.
With a boom, the ghost is sliced directly in half and dissipates into the air. Dispatched.
Hira looks at Maurice carefully, being familiar with the effects of such exhaustion on herself.
Hira, roll a medicine check.
5.
Maurice appears no longer frightened, and though battered, stands confidently as the seagull's feet are no longer an issue.
Begrudgingly, Hira takes out her flint and tinder.
Unfortunately, I think we may have to take a breather here. I do not think our 2 tag-alongs can carry on much longer like this.
What 2 tag-alongs?
You, Maurice.
Yes, you, Maurice.
You know, maybe some food wouldn't be a bad idea, and the fire could maybe let Frog know that we're here.
It's a risk, but it might help.
Some kind of signal fire?
Yeah, the ghosts already know we're here, it's fine. Let's take a breather, keep an eye out, stay alert.
Sounds good. Does anyone need anything scented, flavored, or the color changed?
Well, maybe making the fire a friendly color will help our party know that we're here.
Great. Bright green fire. Got it.
Hira rubs her temples.
No, not that. Maybe something, literally anything other than that.
Dark purple.
No.
Meanwhile, Dronk, Frog, and Euphemia press on. Everyone make a perception check.
15.
7.
19.
Frog, you notice a thin trail of smoke is gathering up at the ceiling. It creates a kind of trail as you walk along. Euphemia, it smells vaguely like a campfire.
Drunk, halfway through a story, does not notice.
I believe my cousin Skyhall was the one that was supposed to be taken as the chosen, but she was busy.
Oh.
Something burning.
The smoke?
Do you not want to hear the rest of Drunk's story?
It was a terrible story.
You have heard it before.
Well, was Skyhall as brave as you?
More so. She is so brave.
Well, maybe this was so that you could learn from her and become the hero you're always
Chief of
meant
the
to be.
Riverboat, what did you say?
As you're moving along, Frog, you suddenly accidentally kick something. A piece of metal. That clinks down the hallway a couple of feet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, wait. What was that?
You look down and see that there is a small, rounded piece of steel, weathered with a greenish patina.
Frog quickly checks her compass.
It slowly rotates, not detecting anything.
Heeding the words of Hira and Farah about not being too hasty, Frog tries to get a better look at this piece of metal.
Roll an investigation check.
19.
It undoubtedly looks like a piece of your metal. And as you look ahead, you see more pieces that look very similar. They lead in the same direction as the smoke's origin.
Well, I'm no expert on traps, but this seems a little bit suspicious.
What are those things?
Is that my taste of Taldore mug?
No!
And Drunk charges towards it.
Drunk disappears around the corner.
Euphemia, do you think we should follow him?
As I've said before, we're all just bugs in amber.
Frog, as you lean down to touch the piece of metal, it disappears. An illusion. And as you look up slightly, scattered across the entire hallway, small pieces of metal. The same weathered patina that makes up your form.
Euphemia, you've been here for a little while. This place is meant to feed on your fears, right? That's why they had us say what we were afraid of.
That would explain the wet bone situation with Drunk. I've heard him speak of it in his dreams. I don't sleep.
Me neither. I think this place might be using my fears.
What, that you lose your armor?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
Curious.
Well, we better not leave Drunk alone for too long.
Frog, as you follow Drunk around the corner, you see him moving about illusory pieces of your own body and trying to grab what looks like your faceplate up off the ground. Make a wisdom saving throw with advantage.
13.
Despite this frightening image, you know it to be an illusion. Your mind is still, and you keep the fear at bay. The smoke is getting thicker along the ceiling.
Frog calls out to her new friends.
Follow that smoke! And put that down, Drunk.
Ha! I couldn't pick it up in the first place.
It's not your mug, you buffoon.
I know, I can easily pick up my mug.
You know, Drunk, even though your mug might have been thrown away in the trash, that trash is still upstairs. So when we get out of this, we'll find your mug for sure.
Yes, I shall leave with my mug and the destroyer of worlds.
The hamster?
You saw him!
Yes!
We must make him ours!
Help!
Frog, make a survival check with advantage as you continue to follow the thick smoke.
17.
Moving through the chambers, following more and more of this gathered smoke, you suddenly see a bright pink light from around the corner, and as you round that corner, see Farah, Hira, Gavain, and Maurice sat around a campfire. This journey takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and Hira, Farah, Gavain, and Maurice benefit from a short rest. As you're approaching, Gavain finishes giving an inspirational speech.
All right. It's not great circumstances, and we don't quite like each other. But we have a chance to do something wonderful. Because even though we have gulfs between us, we still hate one thing, and that's phantoms. And ghosts. And also that Helldwell character. One thing unites us all. I personally am inspired to learn from a leader such as you. And I think you are all going to be inspired by hearing from a leader such as myself. That was a good one.
Gavain, Maurice, Hira, and Farah all gain 6 temporary hit points. Maurice and Gavain genuinely inspired, and Hira and Farah probably more grateful that they don't have to ever hear this again. And both parties are reunited.
Did we miss a Gavain speech? Oh, Drunk loves those.
Small mercies.
All 4 of Frog's arms wave frantically.
Hira! Farah! Wow, we're back together!
Relieved to see Frog, Hira strides past Drunk and Euphemia, ignoring them completely. Almost puts her arms up in a hug, and then puts them down staunchly by her side.
Good, you're safe.
In this cavern of frequently glowing lights, yet another one glows from the end of a hallway. This one changing color from red to blue to green to purple, cycling over and over again. The campfire, glowing pink, extinguishes.
Whoa!
Who closed my eyes?
Farah appraises the changing light.
It is difficult to tell anything from this distance, but roll an Arcana check with disadvantage.
19.
Farah recognizes an alluring light, often used by ghostly creatures to bring victims closer.
Yeah, that's a trap.
Existence is a trap.
And what do we do with traps?
Run in!
Run in!
No!
Frog tries to grab Drunk with her 4 robotic arms.
Frog, roll an athletics check. Drunk, roll an athletics check with disadvantage.
8.
13.
Drunk blasts out of Frog's arms, disappears around the corner.
Take this, trap!
So now we know it's probably a fall.
Judging by that scream, it could have been a bird that has gotten indoors.
Huh?
Oh, you know when a bird gets inside and tries to touch it with its feet?
Hira has already started her stealthy pursuit.
As you move around the corner, the rainbow light dims and disappears, and the floor appears open. Another stone slide has been activated, leading deep into the darkness.
Hira shrugs, taking off her cowboy boots, and using her hooves for better grip, carefully slides down the ramp.
Farah approaches the pit, looks down into the darkness, pulls out her crossbow, and imbues some of her energy into it, taking 5 necrotic damage.
This damage bypasses Farah's temporary hit points. She is brought to 55 points of health and 6 temporary hit points.
Her weapon sheds a bright light down into the pit.
The slide continues past 20 feet, but is notably less steep than the one you originally fell down.
Farah switches her boots to light and slides down.
Great idea, Farah. I'm right with you.
No.
Maurice, who has followed Farah, jumps right in with her.
Maurice is immediately on Farah's tail as you both descend.
Gavain walks up to the edge of the hole. Drunk, I'm coming down, catch me! Time to be a hero. And Gavain jumps into the hole.
Frog and Euphemia are left alone at the top of the pit.
Do you think about death?
Frog's eyes glow a bit brighter as she says,
Actually, a lot more lately than I ever have before. By the way, can you tell me more about the bug in amber thing that you said earlier?
Perhaps at the bottom.
Keeping her monk training in mind, Frog focuses her energy and slides down the ramp.
Euphemia slowly lowers herself down onto her bottom. Well, life begins on the other side of despair. And launches herself down.
Over the course of a half a minute, each of the 7 lands in loamy soil, deep beneath the earth. You are immediately in a tremendous chamber, with ceilings 150 feet high. Getting your bearings, it is clearly a tomb. The dark corners of this space, untouched by the torchlight from the lanterns that hang across the walls, are full of bones, and in the center is a massive gilded sarcophagus, an ancient coffin. Cackling suddenly erupts all around you as hundreds of ghosts seem to drop out of the ceiling, forming a swirling spectral tornado, and a score of them dive into the sarcophagus.
Darker than your darkest nightmares.
There's a long, low creaking as the sarcophagus lid opens, and a massive, bandaged figure rises supernaturally to standing. It is a bulky fellow with tufts of wiry hair and 2 tusks sticking out from between face wrappings. This figure holds an enormous, heavy hammer in both hands, close to his chest. A thick, spectral chain anchors this being to a glowing gem set into the now open sarcophagus, but it makes no rattling noise, rather giving off the sound of hissing and whispering, clearly composed of only ghostly energy. It looks like one of the vines from the marionette ghosts, but reinforced like a braided rope, looking much tougher than the previously seen iterations. And the ghost chain connects back to the sarcophagus, where the great big purple gem pulses with the same energy. The creature roars.
Slayer's Take is a Meta Pigeon production in partnership with and distributed by Critical Role Productions. Developed in association with Hero Club. Game mastered and produced by George Primavera and Nick Williams. Featuring Jasmine Bhullar as Hira Agniheart, Jasmine Chiong as Farah, Caroline Lux as Frog, George Primavera as Evil Poogs, and Nick Williams as The Mummy. With special guests Dylan McCollum, Marty Abbe-Schneider, Gabe Greenspan, and Lelia Symington as The Spectral Hand. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
In your youth, you remember coming across a pirate by the name of Captain Von Idle, who boasted often about abandoning his family.
Work!
Often.
Work! Mood! Work!
Boasted often.
You guys ever hear about how I abandoned my family?
Yes!
Ain't no one gonna tie down Captain Von Idle.
Their families?
Pretty tight, right?
Not only does he look just like that family abandoned...
Yeah, gotta say exactly that.
So dumb.